Hello, I'm Sandy Walden from Serenity, Master Grief Coach and Master Grief Coach Trainer. Today I want to talk about grieving the loss of a child. Even imagining that. For most parents, parents to be, there's nothing more terrifying, more overwhelming. I get it. I really get it. Now, I lost my youngest son when he was 23 years old. Mike died of suicide. And it's an interesting thing because I find myself when I talk to someone who lost their child younger, maybe as a teenager, as a wee one, even in the womb, I find myself immediately going to that place of, oh, I can't imagine. And I find myself deeply grateful that I got to see this funny little boy grow up, learn to devour books, develop a really quirky sense of humor, become a deep thinker, somebody who liked to heckle and tease and play, enjoyed music. I could go on and on and on. I had him for 23 years. Even now, all these years later, if I close my eyes, I can hear his voice. I swear it's as though I can feel his hand. And when I hear someone or I get to know someone who lost their child younger, I find myself grieving along with them for that time they didn't have. Often we will hear people say, it's out of sync. It's the wrong order. I'm supposed to go first. I get that. We often spend time imagining watching our child grow up, hitting those milestones as they move from their first breaths to taking their first steps, going to kindergarten, graduating, finding a job or a career that they love, maybe that perfect life partner, having their own children. What will they do? Will they be serious? Will they be contemplative? Will they be funny? Will they love adventure? Will they be a homebody? How will our life be with them as we grow old? Will they be the one who shows up every day? Will be the one that's on the phone from time to time? Will we write one another letters? How will we be connecting with them when we become very old? As we take our last breath, will they be next to us, holding our hand? When we grieve our child, we also grieve all those expectations we had. Now, I am not about to say that grieving my child is worse than grieving a sibling, a parent, a partner, a friend. It can be very different. All of these grief experiences are unique and come with their own layers. Some of the things that are very unique for parents are sort of labeling, so to speak. For instance, if you lose your spouse, you're a widow or a widower. If you lose your child, you're still a mom and dad. If you have other children, how do you answer? How many children do you have? There can be profound fear for your surviving children if you have them. That's normal and real too. So often people are afraid to talk about your child, and this is true with all sorts of loss and all sorts of grief, and it's something that I hope that we can shift and change as we talk more about the one we love. There are things that we experience when we've lost a child. It can be hard to see the back to school advertisements, even if your child was an adult. Mikey was 23 when he died. And still, those advertisements can be painful, but they also, they can also bring memories of joy and excitement, as I remember my boys getting excited to go to school. Graduations, marriage, going off for this or that, all of these things. Grieving our child is losing a piece of us in a very real and profound way. We won't see them again, and we expected them to be around for the rest of our lives. The grief of a child. As I said, it feels so disjointed, so out of sync. And yet there was a time, not so long ago, when it was very common. I can't imagine it was ever any easier to lose one or more children. In many places of the world, it's still, if not expected, it might be expected in many. It's not unusual at all. I live in the United States. Fortunately, it's much more rare. But it's not rare at all, is it? When we lose a child, the language that we need to learn, the invitations to events and parties and gatherings, the words we use, it's all very much a process, a journey, if you will. Now, I don't resent people who have children who have lived much, much longer than my son and died. As far as I'm concerned, if you lose your child when they were 74 and you're still walking this planet, you've still lost your baby. You still had hopes and expectations. This being is a part of you in a very, very special and important way. It's my belief, and it's been my experience, that this relationship can continue in a new way, to be sure. But the truth is, I just told you, I can hear Mikey's voice. I can almost feel his hands. And at the time of this recording, it's been 11 and a half years since I last physically saw his face. We can continue that relationship in a new way. It doesn't end. It shifts and changes. Let's talk about them. If we didn't have the opportunity to get to know them, maybe we never got to hear their voice. They may have died in the womb or very young, perhaps as a baby, a toddler, or a little child. Let's talk about what our hopes were. What are our expectations? Let's share the things that delighted us about them. It's absolutely okay to talk about the worries and the fears and the sadness that we felt. If we knew they were going to suffer or die, were we shocked that it happened? Was it something that we expected and dreaded? All of these experiences matter. This becomes a bit softer the more we share about it. Not to reinforce it, but to express it and to let it go. Because all of these feelings, all of these thoughts are about the love and the connection that we have with our child. I don't believe that death is the end. I believe it's a door we walk through to get to the other side. How about you? The grief of losing a child is absolutely different than the grief of losing any other person. At the same time, each one of those experiences is unique to itself as well. Let's let go of the taboo about talking about that sadness. Let's say their names. Let's celebrate them. Let's share the thoughts and expectations we had about them. And most of all, let's embrace that love that we will always, always hold in our hearts for them, because that's where the healing happens. I'm Sandy Walden from Serenity, your Master Grief Coach and Master Grief Coach Trainer. Namaste.